Good afternoon, and welcome to this celebration of the life of Barry Zickuhr. Thank you so much for gathering together to remember and commemorate Barry's life. I'm the Reverend Carol McKinley, affiliated community minister for the Olympia Unitarian Universalist Congregation, and I'm joined today by the Reverend Amani Malaika, minister at the Albuquerque Center for Spiritual Living, and also Barry's cousin. Also joined by Troy Fisher, OUUC's music director, and many thanks to our tech team who are making this time together accessible to all. And also thank you to all of you who've helped create and support this sacred space today. We're streaming and recording this service today. We are so grateful for the gift of your presence here in the sanctuary and online. It matters that you are here. May this be a time and a place for each one of us to experience a spirit of love and healing and memory. We gather in community when we have lost someone we love. While grief can feel so lonely, we gather to mourn and to help us remember that we are not alone. We gather to remember and honor a beloved member of our community. We gather to reconnect to the spirit of the one we mourn, to reconnect with each other and to something greater than ourselves. We gather to help us remember that we are alive and that life continues even when we are gone. Today, we're honored to have Barry's chalice, one he created with his 3D printer. And it is lighted today by Barry's son, John. I'll let you handle it, John. We light this chalice, the enduring symbol for Unitarian Universalists and all who are guided by the flame of love and hope. We light this chalice to honor Barry's life and his time on this earth. And so, we have come together. It is right and fitting that we are here today, for a human life is sacred. The Reverend Maureen Killeran writes, "We come together from the diversity of our grieving to gather in the warmth of this community, giving stubborn witness to our belief in times of sadness there is room for laughter. In times of darkness, there will always be light. May we hold fast to the conviction that what we do with our lives matters and that a caring world is possible after all. Today we bring to this community many memories of Barry and his life, and we will continue to have and hold those memories and make them real in our own lives.
We'll project the lyrics to bubble up. If you want to sing along, hum along, make up your own melody, whatever you want to do. When the world starts a-reeling from the pressure drops feeling, we're just treading water each day. There's a way to feel better, be well set to weather the storms till the sun shines again. When your compass is spinning and you're lost
Hi, I am Reverend Amani Malaika, and I am really grateful to be with you today. And more importantly, I'm Barry's cousin. And Zibby picked a reading from Lord of the Rings that I know Barry absolutely approves of. So let's start there. Roads go ever on. Roads go ever, ever on, over rock and under tree, by caves where never sun has shone, by streams that never find the sea, over snow by winter sown, and though the merry flowers of June, over grass and over stone, and under mountains in the moon. Roads go ever on, under cloud and under star, yet feet that wandering have gone turn at last to home afar. Eyes that fire and sword have seen, and horror in the halls of stone, look at last on meadows green, and trees and hills they long have known. Roads go ever on and on, out from the door where it began. Now far ahead, the road has gone. Let others follow it who can. Let them a journey new begin. But I at last, with weary feet, will turn towards the lighted inn, my evening rest and sleep to meet. Here's what I know for sure about my cousin Barry, is he is 100% challenging each one of us to carry on the journey and to do it better than he did it, to love bigger, to be louder, to find an even brighter tie-dye shirt. And so what I know for sure is our time together today is in honor of that. And I know that our time together today will begin a commitment that each one of us can make to be the light bearer and to carry on his work in the world, to be one of the most generous, wise, over-talkative humans on the planet. And so to begin our time of remembering, I would like to bring up my mama and Barry's auntie, Nancy, to share his mama's thoughts.
I hope Barry approves of my shirt, because I do. I love it. I'm Nancy, Barry's mom, Barb's sister, and I've known Barry since he was born. And that first 6 months was the only time I remember him not talking. But this is something his mom wrote, and I have the honor of presenting it. Monday's child is fair of face, Tuesday's child is full of grace, Wednesday's child is full of woe, Thursday's child has far to go, Friday's child is loving and giving, Saturday's child works hard for a living. But the child that is born on the Sabbath day is bonny and blithe and good and gay. The first time I heard this old poem, I immediately thought of Barry, always energetic, curious, and happy. He truly had a lifelong joie de vivre that we all recognized as something special. Family descriptions included a perpetual 14-year-old in an adult body and our own walking Wikipedia. If he didn't know the answer, he could find it for you at warp speed. He also had a heart of gold. We all knew that he could be opinionated and passionate at times, bordering on intense, but that was always tempered by his good nature and genuine compassion for people. I remember the day his dad and I took him to kindergarten, apprehensive and nervous as most parents are when your oldest goes off to school for the first time. The kindergarten room was a zoo of milling people, noisy children, and scared adults, with one little boy standing in the corner crying his eyes out. As we stood looking at it all, Barry let go of our hands and went over to the little boy, put his arm around him, saying, there, it's going to be all right. And that was Barry. He was bright and curious, good with words and debating, always ready with a clever retort. Like the time I told him, in no uncertain terms, he had to put on new underwear every day. And I noticed one day his jeans were starting to look tight. And when I investigated, I found that he had 3 pairs of undershorts on. And when I asked why, he said, "You said I had to put new ones on every day. You didn't say I had to take any off." And starting from an early age, we cheerfully bonded over many things. He was my willing wingman for endless marches for Band the B-1 Bomber and Support ERA. And anytime I needed a new sci-fi read, I could count on him to steer me to something worthwhile. One of the favorite sci-fi quotes we shared as an inside joke seems bittersweet now. Humans, the mayflies of the universe. I hope, my dear son, that someday when I hear someone excitedly talking about their new 3D printer or watching someone fly a kite at the seashore, it won't invoke a searing pain in my heart, but that all those wonderful memories of you will bring a smile to my face. And I will think about another poem that now reminds me of you. My candle burns at both ends. It will not last the night. But ah, my foes and oh, my friends, it gives a lovely light. Thanks.
Thank you. I'd like to bring up Barry's dad, Uncle Claire.
Pardon me a sec. I first wanted to let all of you know a big thank you, especially the folks here at OUUC that have been Barry's spiritual rock for all these years. I know he loved you and you loved him. For those that knew Barry, they know that living life to the fullest best describes him. He was always there when needed, always excited to explore, always wanting to share. To most of us, Barry was our go-to for any and all technical questions. Barry excelled in skills like problem solving and troubleshooting, applying them with the tenacity to assure the job was done, all necessary for accomplishing his technical wizardry. But perhaps the greatest skill in his toolbox was his empathy, his ability to be the listener and coach, to achieve not only the solution, but to share the knowledge with others to solve it themselves next time. Maybe the most important lesson for all of us is to continue that process in our lives, sharing our knowledge with others so they might share it as well. Making it grow and flourish. Barry would be honored to know he had nurtured such an accomplishment. Thank you.
What I know about grief It is only possible because we love. And the love that each one of us has for Barry, has experienced because we know Barry, goes on. Just like the road goes on, just like his light is never ending, so is that love. And my prayer for each one of us is that love is the lead as we move forward with this grief. And that we let the love that is as big as Barry become more of a priority in our choices, become more of a priority in our relationships. I was doing some thinking about, like if I had to pick a few things that most represented Barry's life, generosity was the first word that came to mind. And then hugging was the second thing that came to mind. And I thought, what would Barry most want from us? And then I thought, okay, so we need to be generous in our hugs. He gave the best hugs. I can't imagine a life without those hugs. And I know that's probably one of the many, many things we'll miss. But maybe that's our task. Our task is to be great huggers moving from here. And the other thing I thought, what would Barry most want? Is I know that this community has been wildly important to him, and he talks to me about it a lot. We banter a lot of church talk, and he would share with me what y'all were up to and what the young people were up to and how proud he was to be a part of a community that stands for what you stand for. And I know that in many ways, that is part of his legacy. And the other legacy I think he leaves, because in my mind, he was a modern day wizard, right? He was a modern day wizard. And he was a wizard from beginning. We thought he was a massive weirdo and nerd when we were growing up. And then he just kept being that. Just kept growing up and being that. And then I realized, oh, he was a modern day wizard, and he knew it from the get-go. And so his legacy, his wizardry legacy, lives on in John, who was also a modern day wizard. And I think he would task all of us with loving his family well in his absence, because it's going to take all of us to fill that space. So I know as we remember his life, it's important that we remember what he stood for, what he valued, and commit ourselves to being where that shows up in each of our own lives moving forward.
I want to sing some Grateful Dead together. A little ripple. If my words did glow with the gold of sunshine, and my tunes were played on a harp unstrung, would you hear my voice come through the music? Would you hold it near as it were your own? Tie me down. The thoughts are broken. Perhaps they're better left unsung. I don't know.
Barry loved the Grateful Dead. It's good to hear those words. There are many stories and memories of Barry with us here today in this sanctuary, and we make time to hear some of them now. For those of you online, I invite anyone who wishes to share a brief memory about Barry, you can write it in the chat, and that will be shared here in the sanctuary on the screen. And for those of you here in the sanctuary today, if you have a story to share, I invite you now to come forward to tell it. And Amani will also walk the mic around if you would prefer to remain in your seat. As you speak into the microphone, either here at the podium or on the mic, please give your name and speak so everyone can hear you, including those online.
Hi, my name's Kurt. I'll try to do this. Barry was my best friend. No worries. I have everything we need, he had said as we headed off for a weekend camp trip. That's one of the best parts about Barry. No worries. Even when there are, which I often carried, he knew how to find the peace among the worry. I grew up camping, so I was more than just a little surprised when he unpacked the car. Just one tent, one cooler, and one collapsible camp chair. This was going to be the extent of our campsite comforts at Grayland Beach State Park in the salty autumn air, just months after I met Barry. I was confused about that chair. I hadn't brought one. Barry, he was excited. He was delighted to show me how the single camp chair shape unfolded into a surprisingly narrow love seat. He was extremely impressed with the ingenuity of the contraption, but I'm not sure he'd thought much past that. So what you would have seen walking past our campsite that evening, one tent, one car, and two somewhat large adult males in flannel shirts sitting hip to hip in what must have appeared to be a large single folding camp chair, facing the same direction, sipping whatever it was we were sipping. I was so uncomfortable. Barry was so at peace. That's one of my earliest memories of the years spent with my best friend, and reflecting back on it, it seems to be the most relevant today with you. I couldn't know it then. I just met him. While it was so uncomfortable for me, that love seat was perfect for Barry. That's the kind of friend Barry is to everyone. Whatever the need is, from a technical issue to an existential crisis, he would sit with me, hip to hip, facing the same direction, and be with me through whatever it is I am going through. And I feel that still here today. I love you, Bear. I miss you so much.
Thank you, Kurt.
My name's Greg. Darlene and I, my wife, both knew Barry. We met him in different times and in different places. I met him in 1988, and it seems like a really long time ago. And he taught me my first class in GIS, which became my career and was very important. But it was a 2-week class. It was taught up in Jefferson City, Missouri, and I lived in Rolla, which is about 60 miles away. And I said, well, the week in between, why don't you come down, stay at the house, and we'll go canoeing? And he was like, sure, let's go. And so he came down to the house, and we got up Saturday morning, and we packed up in my beat-up little Ford Courier pickup, went out to the canoe rental place. We had all of our gear. We had a bucket of chicken and a case of beer. And, you know, no sunscreen, no anything like, we didn't anything like that. And we took off down the Merrimack River. And as we, you know, ate some of the chicken and had some of the beer and, you know, got more relaxed, well, Barry decided that he would turn around and kind of look back at me and lounge in the canoe, and he said, have you got it? And I said, sure. You know, this was, you know, like 3 or 4 hours into the float. And about a minute or two later, we rounded a bend, and I went, oh, no. And Barry went, what? And kind of set up, again, with his back to the front of the canoe, and the limb proceeded to hit him in the back, knock him completely out of the canoe, flip the canoe over, and Barry comes up out of the water with a great big grin and smile on his face, laughing. We were both laughing, and we decided, well, we need to try and pick up the empties and pick up the fulls and things like that. And of course, the chicken went for the fish, and we picked up the trash and got back in the canoe. But the big smile that he had on his face when he jumped up out of the water was the start of our friendship. And I would see Barry after that. We would be at ESRI user conferences. My wife Darlene worked at ESRI, and so, you know, and I would see Barry, and he always greeted me with a great big hug and a great big smile. And as you said, we all got a big hug. And we changed careers and things got busy. I took off and went to the University of Mississippi and didn't go to the user conferences much. Barry ended up in Olympia. And so we didn't get to see each other very often. We kept in touch a little bit through emails every now and then and Facebook posts where he told me to tone down my rhetoric and be nicer. I envy a lot of you in this room because you got to see him a lot more than I did, and I didn't get to see him. And so, you know, Darlene played Wordle with him every day, and we kept in touch that way. We just, you know, and through those Facebook posts and through that social media, I could sense a change in him. I see his love for Zibby coming through, because he's Pride and John coming through. And you know, it sounds very impersonal, but the Facebook post did it. And then one of my fondest memories happened just last year in July 23. My wife and I were celebrating our 25th anniversary, but we'd actually been married due to COVID and kids and things like that. 29 years before we finally got to the trip was a train trip across through Glacier and ended up in Seattle. And we reached out to Barry and said, is there any chance you could meet us, and you and Zibby meet us in Seattle? And Zibby was not able to make it. I'm really sad about that. But Barry came up to Seattle, and we spent the 4th of July. We went out to the Bainbridge Island 4th of July picnic. And if you were a stranger watching the three of us, you wouldn't realize that we were three friends who hadn't seen each other in over 20 years. It was just natural. We talked, we laughed, we talked about you. He talked a lot about his family. We talked a lot about some of the maladies of growing older. We walked around, we walked slower. You know, it took a little longer for us to do things, but it was really, you know, just one of my most wonderful memories in my entire life of that weekend at the 4th of July. And when he came to pick us up at the hotel, we again got greeted with a big hug and a big smile, you know, and just enjoyed the weekend. And he dropped us at the airport in SeaTac and gave us another great big hug and a great big smile, and then drove off. And, you know, and unfortunately, that's the last time I saw him. And I'm going to miss Barry because I'm going to miss his exuberance, you know, his love of life. You know, like as all of you have said, he lived life to the fullest. You know, I'm going to miss his love of Jimmy Buffett songs and singing them with him and things. But mostly I'm going to miss that big smile. mostly I'm going to miss that big smile. And it'll take some time, but to all of you that loved him, you're going to be doing something around the house, and you're going to think of him, and you're going to smile. And that's paraphrasing from another artist that Barry liked, Warren Zevon. When you're doing simple things around the house, think of me and smile. And to all of you, you will get there someday, and I wish God's peace to all of you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Zach. Barry was my cousin, but I am going to be actually sharing with you thoughts and memories from Barry's friend Jeff. Jeff couldn't be here today, so I'm reading this on his behalf. Barry, not long after you died, your father said he and your mother were trying to navigate with the great hole you've left in their ship. Your passing also ripped a big hole in my boat. I paddle on, but I would do very well if I didn't have to do it alone. I wish I could be there today at the celebration of your life, of irrepressible energy and gusto, with the family of those I'm close to, and the many others who I've never met. You were my closest friend from 9th grade, when we shared a locker where you stored your Playboy magazines. Through early college until careers and distance, we drifted apart. It wasn't until many years later we began to email one another, and it was clear we were still friends. When we finally saw each other again, it was as if little time had passed, and I understood we would be friends for life. At that meeting last spring, your good cheer and enthusiasm for life was still there. Enthusiasm for life puts it mildly. Reckless enthusiasm qualified, but I'll save those stories for later. Your dad says when you were in, you were all in. But your sister Robin really hit the nail on the head, talking about your love affair with kites, saying you were, quote, the guy on the beach with the kites, the tie-dye shirt, and the bongo drums. It's not that you hadn't changed. You matured in wonderful ways. It's so apparent to me that you love Zibby deeply, and it brings tears to my eyes. Rain is coming down in torrents right now where I'm at, and I remember you writing once, you knew you had found the right mate, as the two of you sat and shared a smile, watching the splattering of Washington's first winter rains begin. Given some of our adolescent antics, which I will not recount here for the sake of your family, it never occurred to me you'd be a father someday. John was about 10 when we first started talking again. And from the very first, your unconditional love for your child and passion for being a loving father awed me. It was inside of you. I never imagined it existed. I find it ironic in our last messages last Father's Day, I discussed the death of my own father some years before, and you showed a deeply empathetic side of yourself and your compassion for the impact it had on me. And John, I am sorry for what you've lost. I hope you too will someday feel that your father is still with you. Barry, you gave me a gift I never saw coming, your family. When your folks contacted me years after we had last seen each other and asked if I had time to see them, I had no idea how much joy being with my high school best friend's parents would bring me. I had no idea your extended family, the Lavoys, would become a regular and wonderful part of my life. Barry, I love your family too. I will be there for them as best I can. I won't say goodbye, but it frustrates me that at least 5 times a week I think of things I would like to tell you. I'd kind of like to tell you, although you might not believe why I cannot be there right now, Barry. Honest to God, I am in Poland at a Roman bathhouse, dressed in full armor as a Roman legionnaire, with an entire group of people taking part in a historic reenactment. Carpe diem, Barry. To life, with deep love and respect, your friend Jeff.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I am Kristen. I'm Barry's cousin, and I'll try to make it through this. I'm grateful to be here. And my father is not able to be here. He's back in Minnesota. He's online. Hi, Dad. I'll choke it through this one for you. But also hi to Mom and Ethan and Wendy. I think they're online as well. So I'm gonna read through this little memory from Uncle Dennis, Barry's Uncle Dennis, my dad. All right, here we go. And if you know Dennis, you'll hear his voice in this, not my shaky ass voice. Okay, Barry was our family's first grandchild. The first time I saw him, I was floored. I remember being afraid to touch him, sure I would break something. This may be my most cherished memory of Barry. Somehow or another, I was charged with getting Barry from somewhere in North Dakota to somewhere in Minnesota. This would have been 1968, I think. So Barry and I took off in my 1959 Chevy Impala. I had no idea how to get to the destination, but knew I'd have to go to Fargo, which to me was the world's biggest metropolis. Like a dunce, I exited I-94 west of West Fargo on Highway 10, which is Main Avenue. So here I am, going straight through West Fargo. Fargo, Moorhead on Main, totally lost, white-knuckled and sweating. You know Barry. He was babbling away, 8 to the bar, asking a dozen questions a minute, squirming around like a bug on a griddle, noticing every single thing there was to see or hear. Now, if I had a nickel for every time he said, "What's that?" I'd own Alaska. Hours later, we arrived, me nearly weeping at our destination. Barry, of course, was as sprightly and energetic as when we left. Sometime later, I started thinking about that trip and how we both laughed and carried on and had such a grand time. I wouldn't trade that experience for anything. I so miss that little Barry and the big Barry. Thank you for making me laugh all these years later.
If anyone else would like to share from their seat.
Hi, I'm Margaret. I'm Barry's cousin. And just a story of Barry and I. When I was 17 years old, I was on a school trip to Europe and flew into Heathrow. And this was before cell phones or any other communication, but I turned around at my gate and Barry was standing there because he just heard that I was flying in and he thought I'd like to see family once I got there. Just amazing, and a big hug, and craziness ensued, and off he went. I don't even remember where he was going or what I was doing, but he's always showing up unexpectedly in my life, and I'm so grateful for that. The other day, I was reading through at Facebook, as I often do, and a poem came up, and it made me think of him so much. I wanted to share it with you. It's very short. On those days when you miss someone the most, as though your memories are sharp enough to slice through skin and bone, remember how they loved you. Remember how they loved you, and do that for yourself. In their name, in their honor, love yourself as they loved you. They would like that. On those days where you miss someone the most, love yourself harder. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Gail Reedy, and I'm a member of this congregation. I've known Barry and Sibby and John for, 15 years, something like that. But I didn't, when you know people in church, you know them in a church kind of way. I mean, you don't know a lot about their personal lives always. And about a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, Fritz and I went camping. And Barry was there, where there were several of us from the church there. And what I learned is he is a competitive SOB. Oh my gosh, that guy. So we taught him a game that we knew, Corkle. And I thought, okay, I know Corkle, I'm gonna win this, right? Heck, no way. Not only did he win Corkle, he called me up the next week and said, I made a Corkle game on my 3D printer. I was like, come on.
Which we all got as Christmas presents that
Are there others? would like to either come forward or share from your seat? Oh, good. Thank you.
Hi, I'm on there. I'm Carl Johnson. I'm a member of this congregation. When my kid Kelly was in high school and was really needing a friend, he was her friend, and I'm really thankful for that.
Hi, my name is Sarah, and I've known Barry since the early 90s when we were in Redlands, and he was working at ESRI. And one of the things he taught me that I think I will teach you is how not to get a double chin. So he taught me, you put your chin up in the air and stick your neck out, and you go A-E-I-O-U, A-E-I-O-U, and that will help your muscles so that you don't get a double chin. And he also taught me, we left Redlands one day and went down to Laguna Beach, and there's a Highway 133 goes through the canyon, and he taught me how to take the turns and when driving. So to this day, I know how to take turns on the road.
Thank you. Oh,
Hi, I'm Shannon Sackett. I'm an adopted member of the Zickuhr family. I've known Barry since I was 5. He was 17, and I just wanted to be cool enough to hang out with him. He was usually downstairs watching Godzilla or something that I had no idea about, but he, for me, was such an ever-present part of my childhood and like a big brother. But my favorite story is just this last year, we were, the eclipse was happening, and we went to go see it in my wife and my son and I, and my son gets kind of obsessed with certain things at a time, and he'd met Barry about a year before that, and they hit it off right away, and he was all about 3D printers. And finally, I had had enough. I'm like, okay, buddy, listen, seriously. We're in this car for another 8 hours. I can't handle this. Let me just text Barry. I'll ask him, okay? So then Barry sends me this massive email back of all the pros and cons of all the different printers out there in the world. I'm like, oh my God, you're killing me, man. So I ended up going, you know what, hold on. So I just started text change between Evan, who's 9, I know, you can judge me with the phone later, and me and his mom, and all of a sudden in the back, I just hear this ha ha ha, ha ha ha, and I'm like, what is going on? And I look down at my phone, and the two of them, my 9-year-old and this giant kid, all the way in Washington, are talking about this 3D printer. And when I looked back at the pictures again this morning, it was high fives over a cool Warhammer he was making, and Evan talking about what he wanted to make, and what kind of, was it resin or what filament? And I'm like, who are you people? But it was just this most wonderful connection that the two of them had, and I'm so grateful my son, who, when he found out that Barry had passed, immediately went down to his 3D printer to make something for him, because he will miss him that much. And that legacy is really important to me. So, love you.
thank you. You can continue sharing your remembrances of Barry during the reception following the service. And just thank you all for your memories of this man who so loved life, which this portrait completely personifies.
I would like to invite us just to take a moment and close our eyes if you're comfortable. And I want you to pull up a memory of that smile, of a particular Barry hug, of just maybe a moment of pure generosity of heart that you've experienced lately. And hold that in your mind for a moment. And allow that to be your comfort. Allow that to be the place you come back to in your grieving, to carry you and hold you moving forward. So it is.
Let's sing together John Mayer's Blue Boat Home. Low below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean. Still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. Wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue Some might say I knew my rudder as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge of wonder, casting questions into the deep. Drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the light of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, and the great winds urging me on. With the infinite sea before me, sing the starlight sailors on. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue
We extinguish the chalice and close this time of remembrance for Barry Zickuhr with these words selected by Zibby from Helen Lowry Marshall. I'd like the memory of me to be a happy one. I'd like to leave an afterglow of smiles when life is done. I'd like to leave an echo whispering softly down the ways of happy times and laughing times and bright and sunny days. I'd like the tears of those who grieve to dry before the sun of happy memories that I leave when life is done. So may it be.
There's a Buddhist parable that for the caterpillar it's the end, but for the butterfly it's the beginning. I know Barry is flying, and may we take a smidge of comfort in that.
Let us leave today to celebrate the power of love, to give us hope. Let us celebrate the power of memory, to remind us that Barry continues to be part of our lives. Let us honor the many gifts he gave to his family, to his friends, to all of the community. Let us go forth today to affirm and celebrate the joy, the goodness, and the beauty of this life we share together. And for those online, thank you for being with us today. For those on site, you are invited into the Commons for refreshments and fellowship. Amen. May we now go in peace.
So it is.
say write it down somewhere. You think I'll remember? I won't.
Don't remember all the things
I don't remember all of them.
That's
No.
why I'm crying.
I know.
You remember me?
I do. How
I'm
are
Aaron's
you?
mom.
It's good to see
I'm
you.
good. How are you? It's been a long time. That was lovely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you up to?
Still teaching. Aaron's in West Hollywood, working as a journalist.
Is she working?
Yeah.
Yay.
She works for Insider, Business Insider. She's disillusioned with the world of journalism, and she wants to become a drama teacher.
Good.
She's going back to school.
Good.
She's going to get certified in English.
That would be great.
She would like to start her own program.
Anytime we sing something, Onyx wall to wall shoot. Anytime
Yeah.
we sing something by Flaherty's and Aaron. Oh, like Mrs. Flaherty? I'm like, yep,
Yeah,
yep,
I love
yep.
Onyx, yeah.
Like Flaherty.
Yeah, so, hello from Aaron.
And hello, and my heartfelt love to you.
I will tell her that,
Yeah.
yeah.
I tell so many stories
touched her
about
life.
her.
Oh.
And you know, I have so much music that is bound in big
Yeah.
folders. And I'll turn past something that I worked on with her. And I'm like, oh.
She's singing, she's taking private voice
Good.
down in West Hollywood, and she just auditioned for an all-female choir.
Good.
And blew her audition.
Oh, well.
They had her sight read, and she can't read music. You know, she's not used to failing, and she said it
I
was
know.
embarrassing.
But she's not.